Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're doing a deep dive into Martin Heidegger. Definitely one of the 20th century's biggest philosophical names.
And our goal here really is to pull out the key threads from his, let's face it, pretty dense work.
Yeah, especially focusing on his core question of being. It's not just about what exists, but digging into what it actually means for something to be.
And that simple sounding question, it kind of turns everything on its head. It changes how we think about existence, how we relate to the world. We'll get into his big ideas, but also, importantly, the controversies that stick to his name.
So the absolute core, the starting point for Heidegger, is that question. What does it mean to be? It sounds almost too simple, maybe, but he felt Western philosophy had sort of forgotten it. Like they got bogged down asking about different types of things. Gods, minds, matter.
Right, classifying the furniture of the universe, so to speak.
Exactly. And they skipped over the more fundamental question. What allows anything to be in the first place?
And this is where his ontological difference comes in. It sounds technical, but it's crucial.
Explain that.
Okay, so he makes this sharp distinction between beings, like specific things we encounter, this chair, that tree, you, and being itself, with that capital B. Being is more like the background condition, the clearing, that allows any specific being to show up and make sense to us at all.
Okay, so traditional metaphysics focus just on the things, the beings.
And missed the being part. They forgot the very ground that lets things appear.
And then he takes this and applies it to us, to human beings. This is where Dasein comes in, right? Which is maybe his most famous term.
Yes, Dasein. And it's not just a fancy word for person or human. It emphasizes our unique mode of being, which he calls being in the world.
Meaning we're not like detached minds tearing out at reality.
Precisely. Forget that spectator view. We are always already in the world, engaged, involved, intertwined with our environment, with tools, with other people. Our existence is this being in the world.
So it pushes back hard against ideas like, say, Descartes' mind-body split.
Totally. For Heidegger, Dasein is a unified whole. And the fundamental structure of this Dasein, the way we exist, is what he calls Kehrsorge.
Okay, care. Now that sounds like an emotion, but you're saying it's more structural.
Exactly. Think of it as the underlying way we are already involved, projecting ourselves into possibilities, dealing with our situation. It's not an emotion, but the condition that makes emotions and moods possible.
How does this structure, this care, show up in our lives?
Well, he breaks it down. It involves our possibilities,
Uh-huh.
what we could be or do, our potential. That's the existence part.
Okay.
Then there's our thrownness, Geworfenheit. This is the fact that we're just sort of dropped into a specific time, place, culture, family. We didn't choose it. It's just the situation we find ourselves in.
Right, the facts of our life.
The brute facts, yes.
Yeah.
Our facticity. And then there's our tendency towards what he calls the they des man.
Ah, the anonymous they.
Yeah, getting lost in the crowd, doing what one does, thinking what one thinks, falling away from our own unique possibilities into this kind of everyday conformity.
So authenticity, then, for Heidegger, it sounds like it's a kind of constant pushback against this they-self.
It is. It's an ongoing struggle. Authenticity isn't about being weird or unique for its own sake. It's about consciously grasping your own possibilities, your own potential, especially in light of your finitude.
Finitude. You mean death, his being towards death.
And again, it's not meant to be morbid or depressing. It's about recognizing that our time, our Dasein, is limited. And facing that possibility, he thought, can actually liberate us from the trivial concerns of they and help us focus on what genuinely matters for our existence. It brings clarity.
Okay, so taking all this critique of metaphysics, Dasein, authenticity, what did he think this meant for Western civilization as a whole? You mentioned a forgetfulness of being.
Right. He saw Western history, especially since Plato, as a gradual turning away from this fundamental question of being. And he worried this forgetfulness reached a kind of dangerous peak in the modern technological era.
Technology. But not just gadgets and computers.
No, much deeper than that. For him, technology is a specific way of revealing the world, a dominant mindset. He called it Gestell, often translated as enframing.
Enframing, meaning?
It's a way of seeing everything, nature, people, even ourselves, primarily as resources to be ordered, optimized, and exploited. Everything becomes standing reserve, available for use.
Like seeing a forest only as lumber, or a river purely as hydroelectric power.
Exactly. And the danger, the supreme danger, as he put it, isn't technology itself, but that this way of thinking, this enframing, becomes the only way we relate to the world, blocking off other, perhaps deeper, ways of experiencing being. We become mere functionaries in a system of calculation and control.
That's quite a critique, and you can see how his ideas, even though complex, have really spread out. They've influenced existentialism, obviously, but also things like post-structuralism, hermeneutics.
Think of someone like Hubert Dreyfus, using Heidegger's being in the world to argue against early symbolic AI. Dreyfus said basically that real intelligence isn't just abstract symbol manipulation. It requires being embodied and situated in a world, interacting skillfully, like Dasein does.
So the power of his core ideas, that ontological shift, is undeniable. It gave people new tools to think about human action, perception, society.
Yeah, it opened up avenues beyond the older, maybe more rigid or reductive models. His work keeps sparking new insights, even about our digital lives today.
We absolutely have to talk about the controversy, his involvement with Nazism.
Yes, it's unavoidable and deeply troubling. The sources confirm his membership in the Nazi Party, his time as rector under the regime, and documented anti-Semitic remarks, particularly in his later black notebooks. And crucially, he never publicly retracted or fully accounted for his actions during that period.
Which leads to that incredibly difficult question. Can you separate the philosophy from the philosopher, especially when the philosopher held such abhorrent political views and affiliations?
That's the crux of a huge, ongoing debate in academia. There's no easy answer, and scholars are fiercely divided. Some argue that his philosophy is fundamentally tainted by, or even subtly supportive of, his politics.
That they're inseparable.
Right. Others argue that while his personal actions and statements were reprehensible, the core philosophical concepts, being Dasein, authenticity, the critique of technology, can be critically engaged with, maybe even cleaned or denazified, and still offer valuable insights.
We should be clear, we're just outlining what the sources and the ongoing scholarly discussion present here.
Exactly. We're not taking a side, just highlighting the documented facts and the nature of the debate. The sheer influence, the fecundity of his thought makes it hard to simply dismiss, but it also demands constant critical vigilance regarding its potential connection to those terrible ideologies.
So yeah, we've really only scratched the surface today. Heidegger is transformative, challenging, and undeniably problematic.
He really forces a very nuanced kind of engagement. You have to grapple with the depth of the philosophical insights while never forgetting the disturbing ethical and political context.
Okay, so for you listening, here's a final thought to chew on, building on Heidegger. He believed our understanding of what it means to be is shaped by the historical era we live in, and he saw ours as dominated by the technological enframing. So the question is, how might your everyday, constant interaction with technology, the way social media frames connection, the way algorithms shape what you see, the way data reduces complexity, how might all that be subtly shaping your own deep-down understanding of what it means for something or even for a person to be?